All right, we'll see if we can't finish this section 1.5 here. Just remember what we did in class right before we left was this thing about the greatest integer function. So, you know, the greatest integer is when you have something in between the little double brackets, it's you want to change everything to the greatest integer less than or equal to that number. So remember, if you put a number in there like, you know, a 5.2, it's going to go down to 5. It's like rounding down. But if you put a negative number in there, like say you have a negative 2.8, it's the greatest integer less than or equal to that, so that would go down to negative 3. Okay, all right, so we're going to try and graph this. This is also called a step function. So when you see this graph, you're going to see what I mean by it. It's a step function. So I find it useful, if you may as well, to put like basically like some numbers here so you can see what's going on. So you can see when I plug 1, the greatest integer less than or equal to 1 is 1. So 1 is going to be 1. When you put in 1.5, you're going to get 1 again. When you put in 1.8, you're going to get 1 again. You're always going to get 1 until you jump up to 2. At 2, you jump to 2. So what happens is you have a line going across, but then you have an open circle, because when you get to 2, you actually jump up to 2. Then when you do 2.1 and 2.2 and 2.3, you stay at 2. But when you get to 3, you jump up to 3. So you get another little line until you get to 3, it's open, then it jumps up to there. So you see it's like stair steps. So once you get a couple of them going, then you can just kind of continue the pattern. And then we can go back this way. And I'll just do a few more. All right. And so these problems at the bottom here, these A, B, and C, these are just basically transformations to this graph. And so we're going to have to, say, move it to the left 1 and stretch it a little bit, things like that. All right, so I'm going to be thinking of some numbers. I think I'll think of that one up here. So work with me here. If I put a number right there, like let's say 2.5. Well, actually, let's just start with some whole numbers, actually. Let's put in 2. 2 plus 1 is 3. So I'm putting in 2. I get the greatest integer of 3, so that's 3. 3 times 2 is 6, so I get 6. So if I go to 2, my answer is up at 6. There it is. So it's going to happen whenever, if I do 2.1. If I do 2.1, 2.2, 2.3, 2.4, this will all go back down to, and it'll turn into 3.1, 3.2, 3.4. It'll all go down to 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So what's going to happen is it's going to stay this way until I get to here, and then of course it'll jump up to 7, but that's not on the graph. Oh, not 7, it'll be 8 actually. All right, so let's finish there. So let's do like 1. So if I do 1, 1 plus 1 inside here is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. So 1s are getting me 4s. So my 1 is getting 4 all the way up until I get to 2, and then it jumped up to 6. All right, so let's try 0. If I put 0 in here, 0 plus 1 is 1, and 1 times 2 is 2. So anything 0, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, that's always going to get me a 2. Oops, sorry, open. Because I was trying, oh, I confused myself. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, because this one right here I keep forgetting, which gets me up to 2. So if I put 0 in, it's 0 plus 1, which is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. So yeah, that was right. Okay, so now I start to see a little pattern develop. So it's basically this 2 right here was stretching the space in between these intervals there. All right, so I think I can continue on here. This one's going to be there, going over, filled in. Then it jumps down here, over, filled in. Jumps down 2, over, filled in. So there we go. All right. So the next one, letter B, has a reflection, and then it has up 4. And so again, let's just try some numbers. So how about I try like a 2? So if I put a 2 right here, I get negative 2 plus 4 is 6. So 2 is 6. All right. Oh my God. Sorry. If I put a 2 in there, I get negative 2 plus 4, which is 2. So negative 2 is 2. If I put like a 2.5, it goes back down to 2, and I still get negative 2 plus 4, which is 2. So this lasts all the way until I get to 3, and then it'll be something else. So if I put a 3 in there, I get negative 3 plus 4, which is 1. So 3 is coming to 1. If I put 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, it's all going to go back down to 3, so I get negative 3 plus 4 is 1. So it stays at 1 until it gets to 4. And now I think I get an idea of what's happening here, so I'm going to draw the rest. And the step function appears every once in a while. It's not like the most used of problems, but just to get a general idea. All right, and this last one, letter C. So we have 1/2. So you notice over here how the 2 made this space right here like wider. So now it's going to become like a shrinking of that space, 1/2. All right, so why don't we try like a 4 right here. If I put a 4 in there, 4 minus 3 is 1. And half of 1 is 1/2. So 4 has a 1/2 spot. If I do that for 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, 4.4, it's always going to get me back down to 1 and then a half until I get to 5. When I do 5, 5 minus 3 is 2, and half of 2 is 1. So it's going to jump up to 1 right here, and then it's going to go over here and do open circle. So it's always kind of like halfway. So what's happening here? I have hard spot at 3, over to 4, and open. And then, let's see, right below 2, I'd have that, and there. So like, for instance, let's try 2. 2 minus 3 is negative 1. So I'd stay at negative 1. Half of negative 1 is negative 1/2. And so that's why I'm getting a negative 1/2 level right here. All right, and so if I continue on, filled in circle, over, open, filled in circle, over, open, over, open. Okay. All right, and so that's it. Just be able to do transformations on that as well. All right, and the last little bit right here that we're going to do is on piecewise functions. You should have done this in class last time, or last year. So some of my graphs aren't quite big enough, but we'll make it work. So this guy here, 3x squared. So remember how I said that if you have y equals x squared, you're going to go 0, 0, then you go to 1, 1, then you go to 2, 4, then you go to 3, 9, so you get this parabola over here and on the other side. Well, now all those answers are going to be multiplied by 3. So what I'm going to do this piecewise function is I'm going to make the graph, and then I'm going to erase the part of it that I don't want. So make sure you use a pencil here. So y equals 3x squared. So 3x squared would be at 0. Then if I put in positive 1, I would get 1, but times 3 is 3, so it's stretching it up. I put in 2, I would get 4, but 4 times 3 is 12, so it'd be kind of like up here. And so the same points on the other side. All right, so here's that whole graph, that whole parabola. It's like kind of stretched. I know mine looks kind of like a V shape, but what's happening here, I only want to use this for everything to the left of negative 1. So I don't want this whole part of my graph. In fact, I don't even want everything up into negative 1. I actually just want an open circle there. So open circle, because at negative 1, it would be positive 3, but I don't really want that. So I'm also going to erase this a little bit, make it a little bit more curvy looking, but basically, yeah, well, that's even worse. All right, well, that's good enough. Anyway, it's like the side of a parabola. All right, so there's that part. All right, now this guy right here. So I'm supposed to stay at negative 1 if I'm between negative 1 and 4. So remember, that's y equals negative 1. That's just a straight line across negative 1. So from negative 1 all the way to 4. So I'm supposed to stay at negative 1, so it's right here, all the way to 4. So I have an open circle because it doesn't include 4. All right, and then the last part is I have a cubic function, and it's moved to the right 5 and up 2. So a cubic function, remember that's this guy like this, and it's supposed to move to the right 5 and up 2. So over 5 up 2 would be kind of like here. So the center of it is still at 5, 2. So everything over 5 up to there. All right, and we could plug in a couple numbers around it. Like, why don't we plug in 4? Because I need that for where to start. So if I plug 4 into there, 4 minus 5 is to the third, so that's negative 1 to the third. That's negative 1. Negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So 4 is going to be at 1. All right, so from there, that's all I needed. And then I'm going to draw my cubic function kind of going up. So basically, it's like I'm starting from right here and like going up. So filled in right there, going up. And so basically, I have part of a parabola, straight line, and then part of a cubic function. Okay? All right, so this last one right here, we're going to finish up. I get an absolute value graph, I have a line, and I have a square root function. So I'm only supposed to do the absolute value graph to the left of negative 3. So I'm going to draw that one on here. So to the right 5. So it's over here, and it's going up this way, and it's going over here. I think I got the correct slope on there. Close enough. All right, so I want this if it's less than or equal to negative 3. So I'm basically going to go, my graph doesn't really go that far, so I'm going to continue it on a little bit. So negative 3 is right here. I only want to the left of that dot that I just made. So I'm going to erase everything else. And then the next part is a line, 4x minus 3, between negative 1 and 3. So 4x minus 3, go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 over 1. 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1. And then go down 4. All right. I only want this line to exist between negative 1 and 3. So when I draw this line then, so at 3, the answer is 9. So I'm going to have a stopping place of 3, 9. So I'm not going to take anything else past that. And then at negative 1, the answer back here, you can see my dot was at negative 7. So I'm just going to put an open circle there. All right, and one last little bit. This guy right here, square root of x plus 1. So square root of function looks like this. I'm going to add 1, so I'm going to be moving it up 1 space. All right. So I'm just going to draw that one in red, and let's see. So at 4, basically I can tell the shape of that. If I plug 4 into that, I have square root of 4 plus 1. So that's 2 plus 1, which is 3. So I'm just going to go ahead and start there. I know it's kind of like a little half curve. So let's see, 4 is 3. So I'm just going to do that and just kind of continue on up that way. All right, so those 3 pieces are your piecewise function. All right, sorry, I had to stop and have a meeting. So we will finish up this next page, these next couple pages in class. They're not really that difficult, but take a little more explanation. So technically, the only problems from your homework that you can't do or that you don't know how to do is, I think it's just number 43. Yeah, number 43. So if you want to do most of this, I won't check it yet, but I would say do some of these problems, but you just don't know how to do 43 yet. But I would get a start at least up until maybe like 32 or something. Maybe they're not really that hard. They don't take that long. All right, I'll see you in class. Bye-bye.